Welcome to Almanac North. I'm Mari Hewitt. Tonight we hear from experts and a first-hand account about immigration to Minnesota. First, an interview with Immigration and Customs Enforcement Deputy Field Officer Director Sam Olson about ICE's role in border security. Later, we're joined in studio by Dr. Kanan Kasturi, who shares his experience relocating to Minnesota to practice medicine. Then the Almanac North team visited Kivu Immigration Law to learn the details of the immigration process for those looking to reside in Minnesota. All of that is to come tonight on Almanac North. A child dying due to maltreatment is a tragedy. Unfortunately, the state's dysfunctional process to investigate such a death only compounds the tragedy, says Representative Dave Pinto, DFL St. Paul. Representative Pinto proposes reforms to Minnesota's child mortality review process, which investigates child deaths or near deaths due to maltreatment. The current process is described as complicated, cumbersome, confused, and problematic. HF 5033 aims to improve the process by allowing reviews to begin regardless of ongoing litigation or investigations, addressing delays that can currently extend up to 8 or 9 years before a review report is issued. Additionally, HF 5033 invites the establishment of a Supreme Court Council on Child Protection to develop a comprehensive blueprint for improving Minnesota's child protection system. Representative Jamie Becker-Finn, DFL Roseville, emphasizes that while the legislature cannot mandate actions by the judicial branch, the proposal has received support from Chief Justice Natalie Hudson, highlighting the judiciary's role in the child protection ecosystem. The House Judiciary Finance and Civil Law Committee approved the bill Tuesday and sent it to the House Children and Families Finance and Policy Committee. Now, Dennis Anderson joins us with updates about the state of refugees from Ukraine in Minnesota on this edition of Denny's Desk. Denny.
Thank you very much, Maria. Well, since Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, nearly 500,000 Ukrainian refugees have sought safety in the United States, with Minnesota becoming a key destination for many. Now, as of February of this year, more than 5,400 applications have been filed in Minnesota to support Ukrainians through the Uniting for Ukraine program, reflecting the state's commitment to providing refuge. The state's long-established Ukrainian community has been at the very forefront of providing support, with organizations like Stand with Ukraine MN leading efforts in monetary support, medical aid, advocacy, and activism. The initiative focuses on rapid delivery of assistance and flexibility to meet the evolving needs of those affected by the conflict. The Ukrainian American Community Center, UACC, in northeast Minneapolis, has become a hub for newly arrived refugees. In collaboration with the International Institute of Minnesota, the UACC offers community orientation workshops covering essential topics such as employment, public transportation, and healthcare access. Now, these workshops are crucial for refugees as they navigate the complexities of life in the U.S. However, challenges remain. Refugees who arrived after October the 1st are not eligible for federal benefits, although some state benefits are still available. Housing and employment remain pressing needs for many of them as they strive to build a new life in Minnesota. Now, as the conflict enters its third year, the resilience and solidarity of Minnesota's Ukrainian community continue to shine. Through education, advocacy, and direct support, they're helping refugees not just survive, but to thrive in their new home. Maria?
Thanks, Denny. Now we are joined via Zoom by Deputy Field Office Director Sam Olson of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE. Hi, Sam. Can you tell us a little bit about what Immigration and Customs Enforcement is and how it relates to immigration?
Sure. ICE in Minnesota has the main field office in Fort Snelling, Minnesota, which is in the St. Paul, Minneapolis metropolitan area. In addition to covering Minnesota, we also cover North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and Nebraska. Part of ICE's mission is to apprehend, go through the immigration process and remove those non-citizens who pose the greatest threats to national security, public safety, and border security. We accomplished this within these 5 states with a staff of just under 200 officers and support staff spread across 10 offices. In Minnesota, we just have the one office in Fort Snelling. We do have a small presence in Duluth, Minnesota, and then we have an office in Grand Forks, North Dakota that helps cover kind of the northwestern counties of the state, and an office in Sioux Falls, South Dakota that assists covering the southwest part of the state.
How does ICE ensure that immigrants have access to legal representation once they're detained?
Sure. Yeah. Ensuring our non-citizens have access to legal representation is very important. We have kind of a robust policy library, about this. Even our detention standards require that our facilities where we would house a non-citizen ensure that our non-citizen detainees have access to legal services. And really, even before a non-citizen would go into an immigration detention, or even if a non-citizen is going through the immigration process in a non-detained setting, one of the first things our officers do during initial processing is give them an actual sheet that we have that's approved through our partners in the Department of Justice with legal service providers. Most of those are going to be pro bono legal services, so they have that information already, but they initially come into contact with us. And something else that we did, even in addition to that, locally, we have quarterly meetings with the American Immigration Lawyers Association, which is AILA, is the acronym for that, since we love our acronyms. So we have these meetings, and essentially that AILA has their members throughout Minnesota, and they'll come with any type of questions or any type of concerns that they're seeing with non-citizens and maybe not getting the proper access to legal services, or maybe just having any questions. And so then what we do as a group is come together and try to get solutions to these problems to hopefully head them off as soon as possible so they don't become bigger. I think that relationship with AILA has been really beneficial for us in ICE and for AILA, and also for our detained citizens, to ensure that they are receiving access to attorneys that they need.
Have there been any policy changes or proposed policy changes that would affect immigrants in Minnesota or the way ICE operates?
Sure. Yeah, it seems like with immigration, there's always talk of many policies always changing. And there have been some policies, and with each new administration, there might be some policy changes. But what really hasn't changed in a long time is the actual immigration laws that all our officers have to enforce. And the other thing that, of course, hasn't changed is just the limited resources that we have, right? And we have less than 200 staff to cover 5 states. So what our focus has been and will continue to be is really focusing on those threats to our communities, the threats to public safety, and any national security threats as well. And of course, with us having the northern border here, we do take the border security threats seriously as well.
How does ICE maintain a positive relationship with immigrant groups in Minnesota, and what challenges do you need to overcome?
Sure, that is always a challenge, as whenever an agent or an agency enforcing immigration law. But also we need to take our communities, and their safety communities, and just the relationship that we have with everybody, and make that, that's of the utmost importance. What we do have here in St. Paul, we have a community relations officer, and that community relations officer's sole job, well, I guess not sole, but one of the many things that she does is to try to perform outreach efforts and look for outreach opportunities so we can actually talk, again, just like we're doing now, and to kind of get some information out there about what we do, and sometimes more importantly, what we don't do. What is something that's important now, especially, or not necessarily now, but it's always been important, is that one of our main priorities is public safety. So I think that it's very easy to communicate what our mission is to communities, to immigrant groups, to anybody, is that we're out there, our officers are out there trying to locate and apprehend those non-citizens who pose the greatest threat to public safety. And if we can arrest and remove those people to their country of citizenship, we are making the community safer.
Well, Sam, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk about ICE and the work you do.
No, great. Thanks. We appreciate it as well.
Next, we are joined in studio by Dr. Kanan Kasturi. Welcome to the show, Dr. Kasturi.
Thank you.
Happy to have you here. Could you start by sharing a little bit of your journey to the United States and what motivated you to come to Duluth?
Yeah. So I grew up in Mumbai in India, and growing up while I was doing medical school, I always knew that America was the pinnacle for healthcare care. The healthcare in America is not only the best in the world, they also teach the healthcare protocols that the whole world follows is guidelines from here. So I always wanted to learn from the best, and so that's what motivated me to come to basically to just learn from the best people. When I moved, I first got into internship at SUNY Downstate. It's the State University of New York in Brooklyn, and that's where I did my internship and residency in pediatrics. After I completed that, I did my fellowship at the National Institutes of Health, right across and affiliated with the famed Walter Reed Medical Center, Bethesda. And then after I finished my 3 years of internship and residency, 3 years of fellowship, I was looking for a job, and I had a few job options. One of them was right here in Duluth, and that was way back in 2018. So I did me and my wife did a little pros and cons of each, and we found Duluth was ranked the most for us, and that's how I came here. So first job out of fellowship.
Have there been some challenges you faced as an immigrant integrating into the community here in Duluth?
Into the community, so I'll give you a little background about how the whole immigration system works, especially for healthcare professionals. The process of selecting a healthcare professional to even be an intern is a process that takes place over 2 to 3 years. There's 4 exams which are called the U.S. medical licensing exams, and those exams involve a day's worth of exams, and one of them even involves like live demonstration of your table manners, of your bedside manners, of your skills and other things. So it's a long drawn process. After that 4 exams are passed and you feel that, and they feel that you have chosen, and no, those exams are the same exams for both doctors who pass out of U.S. medical schools as well as foreign medical doctors. So once that process is complete, then is the process of going for interviews for each of these residency programs, and once that's selected, they will invite you to the U.S. on 2 visas, on one of 2 visas. One is a J1 visa, and the other one was the famed H1B visa. Now, the J1 visa is the more preferred visa to bring doctors over. That's because the hospitals have to deal with less paperwork. And it gives them some little bit of tax benefits. So they all prefer the J1 visa. Now, the J1 visa is a fantastic visa. You can bring it very easily. It comes with a little caveat. After you complete your training, you have to go back to your home country for a period of 2 years. Now, if you want to waive that, then there is a process called the Conrad 30 waiver. The Conrad 30 waiver was initiated by Senator Conrad from North Dakota in 1997. The reason why that was done was because America had a lot of problems filling healthcare workers in rural America. They tried various options. They tried giving perks, increasing wages, giving increased options of buying real estate, nothing worked. So they said, okay, let's get the immigrant doctors over here. So it was a great program. It started off with 20 positions in each state, and that was later increased to 30 positions, which is where the Conrad 30 comes in. So once that's done, once the J1 is done, to waive it, you go through the Conrad 30 and you get into the H-1B visa after that. After you do the H-1B visa, then you spend 3 to 6 years on a contract when you come into a healthcare field. And after that is when you can apply for the famed green card. So it's a long process of achieving that. And each step is marred by some issues or the other. So I have had a few issues. Thankfully, everything was smooth overall, but I have had a few hiccups in the way that when the lawyers, for example, file all this, they need to be on time. And I have had a few incidences in the past when it was missed, but thankfully in Essentia, they did a great job. To just give you an example, those Conrad 30 spots, they fill up in 3 minutes.
Oh.
So you have like 500 doctors or more applying, and you have like 30 spots in, and those spots get filled up in states that need them. So by 8:03, if your lawyer hasn't filled up his application, you lose your spot.
Oh, wow.
And now you're going to go through the whole process again. The biggest problem in this is with the J1 visa, if you don't get a job after your training, you have 30 days. If you don't get a job by then, you pack up and go back home.
Oh, so there's a lot of
There
moving
is.
pieces and a lot of tight timelines.
Yeah, yeah. And you asked about like personal issues. So when I'm here, for example, there was one incident just happened a month ago when I had to fill up, when every time I go to the DMV, I need to apply for my license, and I had to give all these documentations to the DMV. And there's all these bureaucracies involved. They have to communicate to multiple bureaucracies. Something got missed. They had a document that was given to me stating that I have a license to drive as long as I can give all these documents which I need to get from a lawyer. Happened to be that I got pulled over. The officer had no idea what any of this means. He threatened to arrest me because I didn't have the documentation. I was treated as a person who's driving without a license. Then I had to show all my ID and other things. But it was a scary incident. I could have got into big legal trouble by just these small issues. So there is a lot of issues that are dealing with healthcare workers, specifically in rural America.
Well, and now, Dr. Castorri, you're a pediatric endocrinologist. We don't have much time left. I feel like we could go get coffee and really have a great conversation here. But do you have any advice for other immigrants who are considering coming to Duluth and in the healthcare community?
The healthcare community, specifically in rural America, is fantastic, right? I mean, the amount of contribution that immigrant doctors do is just fabulous. The first COVID lung transplant was performed by an immigrant doctor. Duluth, St. Luke's, and Essentia employs many immigrant doctors. As I said earlier, the healthcare is fantastic. The amount that you can learn from the patient to doctor ratios, the amount of bedside manners that they teach you is fascinating. It's a great way to come. But I would say some of the enthusiasm, when they come, they have to take it with a little grain of salt because there's multiple issues involved. And we just have to make sure that they are aware that there are issues present.
Thank you so much for joining us. We so appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, now our team met with immigration lawyer Aaron Schutte-Wadzinski of Kivu Immigration Law to learn more about the process and pitfalls our immigrant population faces as they try to start a new life in Minnesota.
Hi, I'm Aaron Schutte-Wadzinski. I am an attorney and the owner of Kivu Immigration Law. As an immigration lawyer, I work with immigrants and refugees, their family members, as well as their employers. They need assistance in navigating the U.S. federal immigration system, and I represent those individuals in ensuring that they can smoothly proceed with whatever type of immigration application they're filing. That may be an application for permanent residency or U.S. citizenship, or perhaps it's an employer who is sponsoring individuals on a temporary work visa. So part of my job as an immigration attorney is to represent individuals in immigration court who are seeking permission from the government to remain in the United States. Approximately half of the 500,000 foreign-born individuals living in Minnesota are already naturalized U.S. citizens, meaning that they have successfully navigated that process to become American citizens. The other half may be here working temporarily with no intent of becoming U.S. citizens. They're here on a work visa through an employer who needs them either seasonally or for a short period of time. Others are here seeking protection from harm in their home country. Others are perhaps more recently arrived as family members of U.S. citizens or permanent residents. And so there's different processes that one must take in order to become a permanent resident, which is someone holding a green card, to then becoming an American citizen. The process is different depending on how somebody enters the United States. There are 3 tracks to permanent residency in the United States. And individuals must follow one of those 3 tracks to first get permanent residency before they're going to be eligible to become a U.S. citizen. Those 3 tracks are family-based immigration, employment-based immigration, and humanitarian immigration. For family-based immigration, an individual needs a immediate family member or close relative who is a permanent resident or U.S. citizen. And that U.S. citizen or permanent resident would submit a petition to sponsor an individual for permanent residency. Very similarly, employment-based immigration is when a company submits a petition to sponsor an employee for permanent residency. For individuals who don't have a family member or an employer who's eligible to sponsor them, we look at whether someone would qualify for a humanitarian pathway to permanent residency. Refugee status and asylum status are considered humanitarian forms of protection and benefits in the United States. And also foreign-born individuals who have been a victim of a serious crime or a victim of even trafficking may qualify for a U visa or a T visa, which provide pathways to permanent residency as well under that branch of humanitarian immigration. There are a lot of challenges that immigrants face when navigating the federal immigration system. First of all, the system is not particularly user-friendly. It's complex, it's difficult to navigate, and it takes a very long time. Often we think about, we watch the news and we hear about the crisis at the southern border and we wonder, why can't these individuals get in line or come with a visa to the United States? But the truth is that not everyone has that pathway to obtain a visa in their passport prior to arrival in the United States. Even immigrants who have a permanent resident or U.S. citizen family member who has submitted a petition for them sometimes wait over 20 years for their visa to be available. Individuals who have hearings in immigration court are applying for protection or permission to remain in the United States. If the immigration judge does not grant their request for protection, they will receive an order of deportation. So part of my job as an immigration attorney is to represent those individuals and determine what options out there are available to them. And then my firm works with clients to develop their case, present it in a way that conforms with how the laws are set up to receive these types of benefits and protections, and provide testimony to the judge explaining why it's important that they're able to remain here in Minnesota. Unlike in criminal court, there's no public defender system for immigration court. So individuals often are going unrepresented without an attorney unless they're able to hire one. So my law firm, Kivu Immigration Law, is a social enterprise law firm. So it's not a nonprofit organization, but we provide services at flat rate fees that are below market rate to try and make access possible or attainable for legal representation in the court system. There are also many advocacy organizations and legal aid networks out there for immigrants to find services at low or no costs, but it's challenging. There's definitely demand outweighs supply. I love my job. I love the individuals who I get to work with every day. Before I transitioned and became an immigration lawyer, I got to do a lot of international travel. Now that I'm based back in my hometown in Greater Minnesota, I can truly say that the world comes to me through all of the individuals that I get to meet and the stories that they're able to share with me.
Before we go, here's a look at what you might be up to this weekend. Enjoy jazz at the Lake Superior Railroad Museum with the Depot Jazz Quartet. Saturdays in April from 3 to 6 p.m. Admission is $6, $3 for kids. There will also be gourmet hot dogs, a selection of chips, snacks, hot cocoa, coffee, and fresh popcorn available for sale. Sunday from 1 to 3 p.m., the Northern Lights Paint event is at Moose Lake Brewing Company. Paint the Northern Lights, a spring scene, or a winter scene. Pre-registration is required to attend. And all weekend long is the Brainerd Psychic, Paranormal, and Wellness Fair. Speakers, workshops, tarot, psychics, and mediums are just the start from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the Arrowhead Lodge. Details are at metaparapro.com. Well, what a weekend we have in store. Make sure you get out and enjoy it. I'm Mari Hewitt. Thank you for joining us on Almanac North. I'll see you all next time. Good night.